Located in the fairly small town of Byron, Georgia, is a speedway that has sat abandoned for 50 years effectively. A track that surprisingly is one that is still standing, that still has most of its artifacts, stands, even some walls and asphalt around the track that surprisingly is not completely overgrown. This is the Middle Georgia Raceway, and I went to it. Hello everybody, this is Carter Gaming, and today, welcome to a very special video. One of, I would argue, one of my biggest I've done to date, which is exploring an abandoned NASCAR track, fully still standing in its condition.
Some of these hills that we can go on here, and it says that there isn't anything, so I don't know if it's accurate or not. This is, again, probably a very dangerous thing. I'll probably find a spot. There it is. My God, we made it. My God, there it is. And it's windy. I apologize for this. There's the walls over there.
Opened in 1966 at a cost of $500,000, which is big money in 1966, Middle Georgia Raceway was a track built basically in the middle of Georgia, near Byron, Georgia. The track was about a little over half a mile actually, and it began hosting NASCAR races in 1966. And Richard Petty would end up breaking a speed record during that time for 82 miles an hour for an average speed at half-mile tracks during a 100-mile event. Petty also went on to win 4 of the 9 races that were run there in between 66 and 1971.
My God, how was it this damn steep? Okay, I'm getting closer to the middle.
The track sits next to a golf driving range, and something you'll notice in the video is there are a shit ton of golf balls everywhere.
Yeah, look at this. My God. Yeah, there's trees growing everywhere. This area over here is actually still fine. Okay, I'm just gonna continue down this way. Yeah, this is. I don't think this was a part of the thing. At least what I saw. There's the. You guys can barely see that, but there's the old grandstands over there. That's you know, kind of it's there's probably a lot of other shit around there that's I know, graffiti. So we're probably not gonna screw around here. We're probably gonna do a lap around here. You see the clay? There's a little barrel everywhere. There's part of the walls. They filmed a commercial over here in 2011 where it was named a fancy track called Brixton Speedway.
The track usually would host 2 races per season from 66 to 71. The track would kick off both the 1968 and 1969 seasons for NASCAR's Cup Series schedule, with drivers like Bobby Allison, David Pearson, and Bobby Isaac winning races as well. Petty would end up, of course, winning 4 of them. Eventually, the track would be very fast despite its half-mile configuration, as it held about 15 to 20 degrees of banking, especially progressive banking, and it was surprisingly fast. Between 1966 and 1971, there were 9 races held at the track. The final race would take place on November 7th, 1971, which Bobby Allison drove from pole to win the 274-mile race. Over the 4th of July weekend of 1970, the second annual Atlanta International Pop Festival was held in a soybean field adjacent to the track, which is, well, where the golf course, I believe, is at now. Jimi Hendrix, the Allman Brothers Band, and over 30 other acts performed in front of an estimated crowd of 400,000 concert goers. The town had a population of 2,000 at the time. 7 years later, it was the location for filming of race scenes during Richard Pryor's film Greased Lightning about Wendell Scott. During one of the races, there was a pretty terrible crash that ended up happening where a driver's car by the name of Sonny Braswell ended up hitting the barricade. The barricade actually went through the car, and Braswell would suffer 14 separate broken bones. He had proposed to his wife before the race. In 1984, the ARCA Racing Series ran at the track. and the race was won by a young driver from Alabama named one and only Davey Allison. Eventually, at some point toward the latter in the 80s, Ken Reagan, father of former Cup Series driver David Reagan, won the final race at Middle Georgia Raceway. And as he said this on Peacock's Law Speedway, which was hosted by Dale Earnhardt Jr. From the end of the 80s all the way to 2007, the track had sat abandoned for nearly 20 years before it was purchased by a new owner. It was purchased with the goal of converting it to a land development site. However, after the economy crashed in the late 2000s and early 2010s, the plans were placed on hold, and these have never really gone forward since. In 2011, Dodge contacted the current owner of the land and asked to use the track for an advertisement. After 11 days of filming, the Dodge Range filming wrapped up, and the commercial was eventually aired. Although the current owner replaced a fresh coat of paint over the walls, Dodge aged the walls and even brought a local car for 2000 and crashed it to add realism to the scenes. In the commercial, the sign stated it was the Brixton Motor Speedway. On September 15, 2012, an official Georgia Historical Society marker was placed near the raceway to commemorate the 1970 Pop Festival. The track has sat abandoned in its spot since then, and it's likely that no development plans have ever really come forward since then, as the nearby trailer park neighborhood, that is, does not really want anything actually done with the site for noise instances. So there's a chance the track for a while could sit rotting for a long time.
I don't know how steep this bank can. I don't know. It has to be, if I have to guess, at least 15. It's probably about the same as Auto Club or like Michigan, maybe. I feel like it's like a lot like between Michigan and Auto Club. Yeah, there's the walls right there. You can tell those are full. You can see kind of the fence line over there, and there's the concrete wall.
Something that completely caught me off guard was how high the banking actually was, as it really at first glance does not really seem that high at first, but in person it is very steep because it looks at least 15 degrees if not 20.
It's kind of like a little bit less steep Bristol, I would say. Kind of get a look of it over there. The infield where they probably would have some where they probably the pet area and stuff. Yeah, now we're kind of on the low area over here. The grass over here is actually, over there it's bad, but over here it's actually good. There's a lot of golf ball. There's a stack of golf balls over there. Yeah, you can see. I'd love to kind of go there. There's some of the. I think actually that's some of the aged wall over there. Might try and go around here and get over there, a bit closer to the grandstand. What is that? I might have sensed. I don't know what that is. It's just that might be. I don't know what that is. I might have sensed that. I don't know what that is. Like alcohol thing. Probably not do the whole track, but allegedly. Oh, there's another. There's a barrel. More golf balls. More wind. Allegedly, there was a moonshine distillery that was discovered somewhere underneath this track, or near this track, that the government had discovered. Yeah.
In 1967, federal agents from the Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives discovered a freaking moonshine distiller in an underground bunker near Turn 3, which is very strange.
There's the aged asphalt again. You can see the grass, weeds growing in it. Again, this is actually all fine. There's a light tower. I think that's a light tower, or a like power tower or something. I'd like to get over there and see some stuff like that. Yeah, it is, by the way, for anyone wondering, it on the day that we're doing this, it's November, and it is like 80 degrees down here, which is so damn unusual because it's usually so damn hot out here. Or not usually hot, it's usually freezing cold during this time of the year.
One thing you can tell is that the walls are not exactly great on the backstretch, and there are trees growing out of the infield, and of course the weeds in the asphalt.
Now this should be interesting. Here's an old Michelin tire. that's badly cut. That's looking like what they were looking like kind of at Phoenix. Another barrel, more golf balls. That breeze, even though I know it's bad for video, it feels good because it is freaking so damn hot. More golf balls, more golf balls. Don't know what that plastic wrap thing is. You can tell. What is this line? What is that line up there?
I was actually wondering what this white line over here was, and I still have no idea even afterwards, because there's not really an idea. I would have to guess that could be another lane, or maybe an outside lane, but I really wasn't able to tell.
I don't know, that's an odd thing. Yeah, you can see, like, you can tell, like, the video, okay, the video does not do it justice. It is way more steep than, you know, you can see, like, the video can't do it well because the sun's again getting into it. You can kind of see a little broken down patch of something down there, kind of like pit lane. There's, I think, another tire over there. There's the grandstands, which I'm not going, which I thought maybe when I initially had thought of coming here, of doing, but that is such a, screams such a bad idea. I can't imagine. There's some other stuff over there. There's some other stuff down there. We're gonna check the front stretch. Finally can kind of see the flags, and can't see it in video, but you can see it kind of in person. But there's the back stretch over there, where you probably would be hitting probably about, I don't know, maybe like 180. That's not a golf ball. I think we finally are out of the range where the golf ball. No, there's still golf balls over here. This is unintentionally turned into the golf ball video. Oh, that breeze feels so good. Yeah, you can see how I'm trying to cover it so you see. Yeah, you can kind of somewhat see, not very well, how rotten it's kind of started to get. The grandstands are, and they're, I think that's concrete. So here's something I didn't know, is you can kind of see through here a old, I think that's a Bud Light can. So there's obvious people have been kind of having their own kind of parties here. This is probably definitely a cool, but you could probably, well, I don't know if you actually could hold, you probably couldn't, because again, you probably get shut down for doing party. Technically what we're technically doing may not be considered legal, but I don't think the owners care, considering the fact that nothing can be done with property, and we're not really vandalizing. And don't ever go to any abandoned place, but especially track by yourself. You cannot, you guys cannot see that. You can see kind of the way, but once we get kind of to the sun, okay, now you can see the walls over there. You can kind of see it a bit abandoned. You can't really see the flag stand that well, but you can kind of see over here, you know, pavement. It is surprisingly still like black. It's not all, you know, like just whitened, which is strange for our track. Yeah, I'm trying to, yeah, you can kind of see now, I'm using my hand to cover the top. Kind of see the flag stand over there. I know it's not going to be the best time because we're not doing a whole lap right here. But you can see the walls kind of, you know, kind of got away. And you can see over there, and that's towards 3 and 4, you can still see the lane is, you know, kind of still has that same issue, kind of like what turns like this over. You can kind of still see, you know, the walls are on the front stretch and the back stretch, but not in turns. Turns have no walls at all, which, well, they probably just use like wooden walls, because you can see like the fence posts over on this way. So if a driver broke through it, they'd probably break through it. Yeah, it's definitely a cool, probably a cool place where there's some other barrels and there's probably other tires and stuff, but we're kind of just gonna be over here in this corner.
I wanted to get a little closer than I did toward where the front stretch was, unfortunately, because I was traveling with another family member, and in that instance, you probably should, in any abandoned place, travel with someone else. You really want to be safe because, again, God knows what could be out there, snakes or rodents or stuff. So always be careful when you're doing one of these explorations. And you know, the way the walls looked, obviously, the walls definitely looked like they were kind of it wasn't even like from the age to the walls. It just kind of looks, you know, like they are in kind of starting to slowly deteriorate. You can definitely tell the flag stand, if you can kind of see in the distance, still standing there, even though I would never recommend going and climbing in any of that. But one thing that is super obvious is that the grandstands, which look to be made out of concrete, are rotting, which is crazy. But yes, the concrete is completely starting to rot out, and it is very visible. And I didn't get a shot of the back part of the grandstands. I can only imagine that it is also looking as rotten. But getting to even see the racetrack as a whole, it was such a cool experience. And looking around, seeing, you know, just everywhere, and realizing that at one point this track actually hosted motor racing and NASCAR activities as a whole, is definitely such a cool moment. And if you're ever in the Byron, Georgia area, if you can get permission from the owner, which he was very nice about, who also owns the golf driving range, you can actually go around there and poke out of the woods. It's almost kind of like a mini museum type of thing. And what's very unique about Middle Georgia Raceway is it's one of very few racetracks alongside Nazareth that is abandoned in kind of its still condition where it's not overgrown. Where most dirt tracks have weeds and dirt and trees growing out of it. And while Nazareth does as well, the asphalt still makes it obvious. You can tell there is racing there. And while certain tracks you can find kind of outline things to preservation, there really is not much else left out there. But for Middle Georgia, you can still tell that, you know, it's also left in its original condition, especially with the grandstands standing there. It's actually the only racetrack, as far as I know of, that is abandoned, that has its grandstands still kind of there, at least in America. As I left the racetrack, I can only imagine what it was like being here back about 50 to 55 years ago, watching NASCAR Cup races and even ARC races in the 80s, and seeing race cars go around here at the speeds that were stayed of going during that time period. It seems like it would have been a fun track, and I do wish something could be done with this site, but it's looking more and more likely that this may end up being abandoned for a long time. And the future of this place, it doesn't really think there's much future of any of the land. The driving range is still out there, and you can find plenty of golf balls everywhere. But that's about the only thing that I would say you could find, or at least see around it. There were other barrels and stuff on the front stretch, and you can kind of see the pit lane from afar, but there is still a lot of overgrowing going on. So with that being said, this was my journey, and this was my kind of vlog type of what the Middle Georgia Raceway looked like. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at the footage and watching this video. Like and subscribe for more content, whether it's stuff like this or just me talking or even my live streams. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.